So this week I read When Angels Sing, the story of rock legend Carlos Santana. And on the first page it opens with the day he was born, his father standing there holding his violin, and the angels in the room. His grandmother literally called him El Cristalino, the crystal one, because she thought the light of the angels shined through him. So Carlos's father was a musician. He traveled. He was away from home quite frequently. The family was very poor. They ended up moving to Tijuana. And one day, Carlos, he tried to play the violin. He tried to play the clarinet. He tried to play other instruments. His father's was some kind of a horn. A lot of these words in here were Spanish words, and I had to look a lot of them up. But he just couldn't put his heart into the instruments that he was trying to play until one day he discovered la guitar. And he just knew that he would be able, maybe this would be the way that he would make angels sing, the way that his father seemed to make the angels sing. It moves through young Carlos's life. They moved to San Francisco, and he didn't like it in San Francisco because he didn't know English very well, so he was unable to pass tests. He was unable to read, and his teachers thought that he was dumb. So he ran away and went back to Tijuana. And his family came to get him, brought him back to San Francisco, where he worked in a burger joint. Well, at one point, Carlos's father sends back the guitar. He learns how to play the guitar, and he gets to be very good at it. He starts a band, and soon he is known worldwide. But he still hadn't heard his angels sing yet. And then we're through the pages. There's in highlights the dates of time periods throughout Carlos's life. But as we move through time, he's talking about Martin Luther King and how Martin Luther King was working to change the world. And something that it kind of gave me chills when I was reading it was he was talking about all around you, the nurturing light of possibility was beginning to glow. Martin Luther King was changing the world, and young people like you were too. You were taking your hearts and coloring them open and making the world a better place. And then on the next day, and then the light was gone. He was gone. And it talks about the bombs of Vietnam. And it just struck me the way on these pages there's basically no color, because one of my favorite things about this book was the use of folk art. It was so bright, it was so vivid. The images jumped off of the page and made you want to keep reading, keep going. But on track. He gets to a point where he understands that music is healing. It was healing for him. It was healing for the world. But through all this time, the concerts that he played, he still hadn't heard his angels sing until he gets the opportunity to play at Woodstock in front of over 400,000 people. And at one point, he talks about instead of looking out at the crowd, he began to look within himself, and he found the strength and the confidence within himself. And then he understood suddenly why there were no angels singing for him. It was because he started looking in, and then when he looked within himself and found the strength and the courage, that's when his angels sang. So what else I also liked about this book was there's an author's note in the back, and it just says one small thing. Carlos Santana believes that we each carry the spark of the divine within us, and that we each, in our own way, have the power to heal the world. Then he goes on to found some foundations. So I feel like in this book there was a plethora of lessons that could be taught to the students, namely being that, like it says, it takes just one person to do something positive to make a positive change in the world, and it could be a child. But it also talks about a culture that is different from what maybe some students would understand. Like I said, there was a lot of words, terms in here written in Spanish that would be fun to have pre-printed out on a note card. I'm sure the kids would ask questions about what those words mean, so it'd be a fun lesson to go over with them and teach them those words. But also, um, there were instances in there about Carlos's brothers working as a Carlos's brother, excuse me, as a migrant worker in the fields, and how Cesar Chavez worked to improve conditions, and how, namely, Carlos never gave up on himself, on his dream, on his ability to mix different types of music that were special to him to create his very own special sound. So for my activity that I would do, I would first do, excuse me, a compare and contrast with another book about Carlos Santana. It's called Carlos Santana, Sound of the Heart, Song of the World by Gary Golio. And then after reading both stories, I would ask them questions like, do we know Carlos Santana better now after hearing 2 accounts of his life? The biographers give a survey of his whole life or a single incident, and which book was your favorite and why? And then individually, they would draw out a Venn diagram and fill in on each side a comparison and contrasting of them with Carlos Santana. Thank you.